it seems like it's not only with relationships with women, like men, whether they're going on a business venture, whether they're traveling, or if they're getting into a relationship, long-term relationship, they are stepping into the unknown. So what can they expect? What can our listeners expect who are on this journey if they're stepping into these sorts of situations in life? And how can they prepare themselves?
I think what I would try to tell them to expect is that this is going to be way more difficult than you ever could have imagined. So think about, well, the unknown, right? And so we try to, as we engage with the unknown, to understand it, to make it known, to bring order from chaos.
Makes sense with it. Yeah.
Yeah, part of that process is, let me reduce this down to a manageable level here so that I can contend with it, so that I can deal with it. So I can have this orderly, conquered corner of the world again, right? And so I just think when it comes to long-term relationships with the feminine woman, is that they finally meet their match. You mentioned, the guy sort of getting into a relationship. He has this maybe some degree of a sense of purpose, and there's a lot of satisfaction with that. There's a lot of confidence that can come with that. But then he meets his match, so to speak, with the feminine in a long-term relationship, and it's like, wow, this is much more difficult. And this is why you hear some of the language that guys use with women. It's just, they're needy, they're relentless, they're irrational. It's never ending. It's always something. You sort of hear a lot of these words and terms, and they have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And that's because it's way more than they ever could expect it. And then that's when fear kicks in ultimately. And fear causes us to do a lot of things. We know that. So, but typically, again, on a relational level, what that causes is aggression, passivity, and defensiveness. When what you need to be is assertive, and to practice confidence in those interactions, because you got to get it a little more stable. Well, really, you got to get yourself a little more stable than what you are, so that you can, compose yourself and deal with what's in front of you, but also deal with what's in front of you in a way that's conducive to the longevity of the relationship.
Yeah. And when they step into the unknown, they're essentially, I'd imagine that would create tremendous doubt. So what advice would you have for men who would be experiencing that?
To be steadfast. I think Jung had some quote in the Red Book that in the greatest doubt, steadfastness is the veritable flower of life. And I really appreciate that notion, because even in my own marriage, it's always some degree of doubt, because I'm constantly facing the unknown, because I'm in a long-term relationship with a woman who's very feminine, and is constantly meeting my match. She's constantly evolving too. And so because we're both growing, I'm always learning more about her as I learn more about myself. And so, so again, it's probably way harder than you ever could have imagined. There's always going to be some doubt. But I would say that not only being steadfast, but stop wishing the doubt didn't exist. Stop wishing the chaos didn't exist.
Wow.
And I think that's often, to me, a root of the problem. It's the resistance to the problem, not that it exists. And we typically think, well, if she would just do this, if she would just think rationally, if she would just trust me, and have all these questions of what we think could fix it all. But that's not the answer. The truth is that there should be chaos.